Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grip Locked Foundation Disc Golf's weekly podcast. This is definitely a weird episode. So I'm out at Ledgestone. I'm in Morton, Illinois right now, and I have Trevor on the phone in my ears, and he's recording this separately. So you can probably see like a little split screen of both of us right now. So definitely the weirdest way we've recorded Grip Lock to date. But so Trevor, give me a little update. How are things going back home? Is the shop still in one piece?
Well, we had an early scare when the floodgates opened about a day after you left. But since then, I had to take the boat in a few times to get, from disc to disc. But since then, it's been smooth sailing. So far, I've built a lot of different structures out of boxes in my free time.
I saw the throne.
Yeah, the throne is one of them. There's been a few more. I built a bed at one point. It's, I've been keeping busy. It's things have been going well though. We definitely miss you back at the office, me and the fish.
You and Sushi?
Me and Sushi the fish, yeah.
Jeez, yeah. Well, I'll be back in town next week, so the next podcast we'll be able to get back to our normal quality and everything. But, I've been out on the road. I did some coverage for Idlewild, as you've probably seen on our YouTube channel. If you haven't, go check it out. And then this week I'm doing coverage for Ledgestone. But I think we want to start off just kind of talking about Idlewild. We'll talk through the results super fast, and then I can kind of give some insights into stuff I was noticing while I was out there, as well as some storylines that I think came up from the results, and just a few talking points that I wanted to bring up from things that I was noticing with the results. So I'll quickly run through the Mpo side, and then we'll talk about a few things on the Mpo side, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Fpo, because I think this tournament brought up something that I really want to touch on with the Fpo. So on the Mpo side, we had Eagle taking it down by 2 strokes over Chris Dickerson, and then Andrew Marweed coming in third place. I was filming Brody's card.
Bit out of nowhere there.
Yeah, I was filming Brody's card round 1, and this dude was tearing the course up. Like, his forehand is kind of next level stuff. I mean, have you heard his name before?
I've heard that name before, and I'm trying to think of, like, maybe I've watched him on coverage. But I've definitely heard the name.
Yeah, his forehand, which this course did play to forehands. You probably,
Sure.
You might have seen Brody throwing a lot of them, and people were asking why. A, he just felt comfortable with it. B, this course, if you have a good forehand, a good straight pushing forehand with a soft finish, this course really played to it, and that's what Andrew had. He was throwing, bomb forehands off the tee. They were going extremely straight and having, good, soft, predictable finishes, and then his upshots were on point all week. So, no surprise from me to see him come in third because I watched him play. But if I was sitting at home, that would be a name that, most people aren't going to recognize. So that's kind of exciting to see someone like that coming in the top 3 there, especially at such a stacked
field. Is he a young guy?
He seemed about my age. I don't know his exact age, but he seemed in low 20s, somewhere in there.
All right.
So
that's good stuff.
Yeah, and he's on Team Innova, so he's already been picked up, and he's a decent player. I've heard his name before, but it was kind of cool to see him play round 1 and then see him continue his solid play the rest of the rounds.
Yeah.
Speaking of solid play, we also had Chris Dickerson and Ricky both set new course records the final round at 14 under par, which is insane.
Yeah, that was absurd.
Chris actually had a shot at the win, A, but B, he had a pretty legitimate shot at 18 under because he was 14 down going into, he was 13 down, going into hole 15,
yeah.
I think, which he.
Yeah, I know he was 9 down through 9 when I checked at one point.
He had 2 eagles that round, I think.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
And so, in my head, I was looking at it 13 down thinking if he birdies 15, 16 is a very eagleable hole, especially if you're as on as he was. And 17 is pretty eagleable, but realistically, he could have went birdie, eagle, birdie, birdie, or birdie, birdie, eagle, birdie, and finished 18 under on that course, which would have been absolutely insane. But, 14 down is still insane. The course record was set at 12 down by KJ last year. So to have it already be broken by 2 this year was pretty interesting. And it kind of brings me to my first thing I noticed was the course. There's a few changes on the course. that should have made the course play a little bit harder. Pins were moved back a little bit farther, stuff like that. But the course was playing easier, which was weird. Did you have a chance to watch much coverage of it?
I did, and normally I remember watching coverage in the past and seeing a lot more big numbers and a lot, certainly not even necessarily the big number, because I feel like the big number factor was still there a bit, but there was just a lot more birdies happening than normal. Like seeing Chris Dickerson go 9 down through 9, and I know Paul, at least the first 2 rounds, was getting like the first 3 holes.
Every round he was 3 down through 4, I believe.
Yeah, so that's what was shocking me, because that course is one of the few courses left on tour that is pretty heavy woods, and if you hit a tree at the wrong angle, you're shooting 100 feet in the wrong direction. So yeah, I was shocked to see the scores being that low.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly happened, because it's not like just the top guys were playing better. The whole field was showing an improvement. I looked up the cash line last year was +1 for the tournament, and the cash line this year was -5. So 6 strokes. You had to shoot 6 strokes better to cash this year, which is crazy. So I don't know.
Do you think that was just the field playing better, or did you notice something in the course?
The thing is, the changes I noticed in the course all made the course harder. So that's what was confusing to me. It's like hole 2, they pushed the basket a solid 40 to 50 feet further back and a little bit closer to the water. I believe it's hole 2.
Yeah.
One of the holes they did that. And changes like that were made that, when we were playing the practice round, you were thinking, oh, this course is going to play a little bit harder. Even hole 11, the easy birdie or die hole, they left the FPO playing on the old tee, but the MPO, they moved the tee back an extra 60, 70 feet. And stuff like that, during the practice rounds, you were actually looking at the course thinking, this might play a stroke or 2 harder this year. And here it is playing a few strokes easier. So I don't know if
to
it
me
speaks,
that's discouraging for me for like course designers, because I think Idlewild, like I said, is one of the few courses left on tour that's wooded and can be difficult without a ton of effort because of the natural terrain. And to see guys shoot 14 down like that, that's a bit discouraging as a course designer, because now you're thinking, what the heck do I have to do?
Yeah, I mean, the other course on tour that's like that we're playing this week, which is Northwoods Gold, which we'll talk about that coming up when we get into our Ledgestone. But it was definitely interesting. I don't really know what went into it to make it play easier. Part of me is wondering if it's just that this course to a certain degree is a little bit newer to the tour. People have been playing Idlewild for a while, but as far as a pro tour, I think this is only Paul's 2nd or 3rd time out here. So I'm wondering if that's the same for other players, and the more they come out here, now they know the course a little bit more and know the landing zones and are a little more comfortable with it. That's all I can think of. But, regardless, the play was elevated this week to a level that course hadn't seen before. So it was very impressive.
Yeah.
Which I did just mention Paul's name, and a lot of people, he had the win in his pocket. If you haven't watched the coverage, it was Paul's win, period.
A 2-stroke lead for Paul McBeth in the last, 8 years is as much as a certainty as you really get in our sport. And I'm curious if anybody's listening and wants to find the stat for me and send it to me on Discord or whatever. I want to know how many times in Paul McBeth's career has he had a 36-hole lead and lost, especially in a 3-round tournament where he's got 2. I think he had 2 strokes, right? 2 strokes and 1 round to play, and the guys on his heels immediately were Big Jerem, Hammis, guys who are good players but not the type of killer that you're worried about tracking down Paul.
Yeah.
Obviously, Eagle was quite a few back to the point where all Paul had to do was shoot an okay round. Just play safe, good golf, and that's a win.
Yep.
And so I was, I had pretty much already wrapped that up in my mind. I was shocked, especially because he didn't start bad either.
No, he got the 3 of the first 4 again. He
He
came out hot.
He started out on track.
Yeah.
And I thought he was just going to get into cruise control. But, and that does speak to the difficulty of the course, to where it is a course that you have to continually hit lines and keep your focus, or else you can take bad scores. Um, but
Yeah.
I was definitely pretty
I did. I
shocked.
talked to him basically immediately after his round. We went to the gas station because he was waiting for Hannah to finish up. And, I didn't bring it up because I didn't like. You never know when Paul loses. He's always in like a
Yeah.
better mood than you would expect. But in my head, I expect the mood like if I just lost a tournament, where I would be like ticked off. I don't want anyone talking to me.
Yeah.
That's not Paul, but I always just picture that's what Paul's gonna be like. And so we get in the car, and he's like, "I just handed that tournament away." And I'm like, "Yeah, what happened?" And he said the moment that he thinks back through the round, the moment that he thinks he lost the tournament was on, I think he said it was hole 2. Um, there was a hole early in the round that he had gained strokes on players, and he decided to lay up a putt. And
Mm.
mentally that put him in cruise control when he said I couldn't go in cruise control on this course, but he said that mentally put me in I need to conserve my lead instead of I need to keep my foot on the gas pedal. And so he said by the
Mm.
time that the players were, killing it, crushing the course, my mentality was already in conserve my lead, and it was too hard for me to switch back mentalities basically, which I thought that was a very interesting take, but even on hole 16, he did a very Paul thing, which is to bang a 80, 90-foot eagle putt
Yeah. Crazy putt.
to make it where you're like, oh, if he birdie 17, Eagle's going to be seeing that. He birdie 17 because Eagle's on the green of 17, I believe, putting for birdie. And Paul was on, that was when Paul hit the putt. So you hear the chains. There's no gallery, but there was still like the media crew. I was there. Brody was there as part of media. There was a lot of media there, regardless. And a few players were kind of lingering around to watch. So there was 15, 20 people, and they all made noise and said like, yeah, Paul, let's go. So Eagle knew what had just happened.
Mm-hmm.
But so you knew that put pressure on Eagle going into 18, which is a very, very hard hole to birdie. Even par on that hole is great. So to me, I was thinking if Paul birdie 17 while Eagle's walking up 18, Paul still won. And then he had his shot first off the tee on 17, hit early, kicked left. The flagger gave him the red flag. Ends up he was just shy, but then, he had already in his head been like, oh, I'm OB. He walks up to it. Turns out he's inbounds. There's an aggressive shot that hits another tree, goes OB, and that was the tournament. It was done.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about this before. Paul's mindset, if he's not winning a tournament, he doesn't care.
Doesn't care.
Yeah, if he comes in second, that's the same as coming in 10th, 20th, whatever, because he's there looking. He's there to win the tournament. So if he's not winning the tournament, it's not that it doesn't mean anything to him, but he's like, whatever. So as soon as, you could see the shift once he knew officially the tournament was out of his grasp. You could see, and if you watch the coverage, I'm sure you can see it. You could see the shift in Paul to just being like upset, like I just gave that tournament away. And so the rest of hole 17 and hole 18, he just wasn't in it the same, which is why I think he dropped lower than he probably could have. He probably could have still fought and stayed in second or third or whatever, but he just dropped lower. But I thought it was interesting to hear him talk about his mindset like that early in the round, to hear him shift his mindset to conserving a lead and him count that as what lost him the tournament was very interesting.
I think that speaks to his ability to read the game and kind of understand, how his, mind game works. Because, for me, if I'm looking back at a round and, okay, where did I lose this tournament? It's probably, oh, I took a bogey on this hole when I had momentum going.
Yeah.
The fact that, he's looking back to a place that he didn't really mess up anything except for his strategy is the only thing that he changed. That's super interesting. And that just shows you like the level of focus you have to win.
Mm-hmm.
The sport is not where it was before, where, the best players could just win because they were the best players.
Yeah.
You have to focus for, however many holes there is. And, just a little lapse and even just deciding to lay up, that could completely throw off your game. And it's very fascinating.
Yeah, I was very just here when he said that, I was like, holy cow, like I've never thought of it I've never thought of it that way. Like I've never, probably just because I haven't been in that position enough to where I don't even know what my mental shift would happen of like, oh, I'm conserving a lead versus, oh, I'm going for this. Because I've never, Paul just has been there so much that I guess he has two game styles of conserve, just stay in front,
Let me tell you,
or foot on the gas.
When I'm laying up putts, it's because there's a 10-mile-an-hour headwind and I'm 30 feet away from the basket. Not because I'm trying to cruise to a win on the Pro Tour. Yeah. So I would not know.
He also did mention that going into the round, he was looking at the cards and he was pretty certain. He's like, I don't need to really, not that he didn't need to worry about his card, but he said, I knew if someone beat me, it wasn't coming from my card, is what he said. Because he's, basically because if you look at his card, he played to average to his card. His card, I think Germ won his card with a 4 under and Paul shot 3 under or something like that.
Yeah, his card was pretty weak.
Yeah, so he played to what his card...
Which is dangerous.
Exactly.
That might have played into it because if he's playing with, the guys... if he's playing with guys that he's more worried about, maybe he's not laying up that putt. That's why chase card can be an advantage sometimes because you can focus on your round, not worry about catching a guy who's on your card, and just let the results play it. And, that's how, in theory, you should always think that way. I'm playing against the course, not the guy next to me. But it does, when you get into those final rounds, where everybody is, it does kind of turn into a bit more of a chess match. But I think that definitely had something to do with it because when I saw his card for the final round, I was like, none of those guys are the ones he has to worry about.
I think he knew that going in, but it's still different when you have to. And the UDisc Live scoring the final round was a little bit all over the place. Like hole 18, hole 17, Eagle at one point it was circle 2 OB putting for par, and then it was circle 2 putting for Eagle, and then it was circle 2 putting for birdie, and then it was circle 1 putting for birdie, all while Paul's just trying to make an eagle putt. So it was hard to rely on what is exactly happening with the UDisc. It was probably just off the tee. The guy couldn't tell if Eagle was OB, circle 2, whatever. But it changes things because if Paul or even Eagle, if they're able to see each other's shots and play shot for shot, then Paul conserving a lead, that mindset is a lot easier because now he can see who he's conserving the lead over versus if he shifted to that conserve a lead mindset like he said, and he's conserving the lead over the players on his card, he did that. You know what I mean?
Right.
He accomplished what his mindset was looking just at his card, but his card wasn't the ones he had to worry about. So that's also something that's very interesting is, looking at how do you go about, trying to stay in front of players that you can't see and you don't know what they have done until they've already done it. It's very interesting. All right, so we had a little cut there, some technical difficulties, but we're going into FPO side, wrapping up the MPO side there. On the FPO side, we had Ellen Widboom taking it down. She won by 1 over Sarah Holcomb, and then we had Katrina Allen coming in third. Which, first off, Ellen Widboom taking this down was kind of awesome.
Pretty sick, yeah.
She had a very emotional moment kind of on the final green talking about how, she's a little bit older than a lot of the FPO field. She hasn't really had her breakout win. She hasn't really had, this breakout moment. And so this year she really just changed her diet. She started working out more, all of that. And, it started taking disc golf a lot more serious, which led to this, this win. And so to kind of see the culmination of all her efforts led to her being very, very emotional, which is just, awesome for her, awesome for the sport.
Yeah, I think there's a big point to be seen there. And she kind of took on the attitude that more players, and it's tough right now for disc golf athletes to like really make the sport a huge focus if they can't afford to be on tour and whatnot. But like that just shows that somebody who is, not one of the top FPO names, who is much lower, I'll say rated, we don't talk about ratings, but we'll just say she's off the radar.
Yeah.
But she was able to focus on disc golf and change things about her health and fitness, and like, all the culmination of all these things allowed her to just win a tour event against all the names we expect to be winning. And like that, is the attitude that more players need that could, really change the atmosphere on tour and make it a lot more fierce.
For sure. And speaking of fierce, Paige
So-
Pierce struggled here.
Yeah.
It was
yikes.
interesting because to a certain point, you I don't know. Part of me feels like this course played a little bit to Paige's strengths and the distance required, but at the same time, it also asked for a lot of forehands, which I think is why you see Sarah Holcomb and Ellen Widboom up there.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, it's not a huge shock that Paige didn't win. You'd almost. It's always a shock that Paige didn't win, but at this course, it makes sense that a forehand dominant player would win.
Yeah.
But to not even
She
see
kept
her,
sniffing the lead.
Yeah.
She kept sniffing the lead a few times, and every time she got close, I was kind of thinking, oh, well, here it comes. Now she's going to take over, and then she just wouldn't. I feel like every time we talk about Paige being dominant, she goes and loses the next event at this point. But the FPO field, after the first few events, the FPO field has started to get, really interesting. And once again, we're still without a lot of players who, I mean, there was just a big finish event, wasn't there?
There was, and
for the women,
most of the, Henna Bloomrose, believe Kristen Tatar and Evelina were all there. And so those players, as they make their way back to the States, once COVID allows them to,
it's gonna get interesting.
It'll definitely make things interesting, but
because they're no joke over there in Finland.
No, not at all. And I think that them being in the States is going to be key to FPO kind of taking off and getting some more momentum behind it. But another thing that I noticed about this tournament, and then it made me kind of look back at other tournaments, is the scoring differential between FPO and MPO. I don't know if this is the same in golf. It could just be completely normal, but to me, I think it's weird that the courses are set up, the tees are set up, the pars are set up, that FPO is going to have the winner be 35 strokes different than the MPO winner.
Yes. So in ball golf, as far as like the PGA and the LPGA, the only ball golf courses, the way they're designed, the tee boxes are you can be moved back and forth super easy without affecting a line off a tee like you would in disc golf. So the only difference between the ladies' tees and the men's tees is the ladies' tees are a little bit closer. And frankly, at the highest level of ball golf, some of those ladies can absolutely mash.
Yeah.
So like it's not even that much of a difference, which is why they shoot similar scores to what the men will shoot at a course. I think in disc golf, it's tougher to do that with the tees without changing the hole because of the way disc golf works. There's typically, especially in a woods course, there's typically a tight line off of a tee box. So I think that's where the issue is.
Well, then should we be looking at changing the pars instead? So instead, like if we're both team, let's say they're playing from the same course.
Well,
in a MPO, it's a par 68. What if FPO, it's a par 78, and the tough par 3s and 4s are just bumped up to par 4s and 5s?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, for one thing, par is relative.
Yes.
But I do understand, the allure of like, we want the women to be finishing under par.
Well, I think,
I think that's tough just even for their perspective. Just like, I don't want to be winning and shooting 8 over. Like shooting under par, even though par is relative, shooting under par is still attractive.
Yeah.
So, I think, you can change the par on the course, but I think it does make things a little more confusing maybe. And it's just like with the men's courses, we have issue with par as well, as far as, well, is that a tweener? Is that, ungettable par 3? There's always going to be issues with par. So it's almost like, why even bother, in my opinion? Let's just leave it how it is.
I can understand that, but I think that part of the reason you want to watch coverage, right, is to watch people do what you can't do. That's the reason I watch the NBA. That's the reason I watch any sport, is because I like watching someone dunk a basketball. I like watching Paul throw drives and have eagle putts. So I'm wondering if just changing the par will change our mindset. Because, no offense, but like, I don't want to watch bogey golf sometimes. So if they're laying up or Paige has eagle putts now instead of birdie putts, and the rest of the FPO field can get up and down and get birdies and stuff. To me, at least for me as a viewer, that makes it more interesting for me because now, at the end of the day, I'm not really watching coverage and sitting back. If I'm not at the course, I'm not sitting back watching coverage going, oh my gosh, that was such an easy par 4. I'm just saying, oh, that was a sick, oh wow, that was a star frame. That was sick. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering if it would change the mindset to make the coverage and tournaments be more interesting because at the end of the day, who's sitting here going, oh my word, Ellen Widboom shot 8 over par to win the event. Imagine if the par was changed and we could be like, Ellen Widboom, final round, if the par was changed, let's say 10 strokes, she shot 10 down her final round to come back and win this thing versus she shot even par to come back and win.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I guess it's just I'd have to look and see, how much par could be tampered with without making it just not seem right.
Yeah.
Because let's say you have a 390-foot par 3.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys are reaching it, but then the girls aren't. I don't want to see Paige Pierce have a 40-foot jump putt, to get up and down for birdie.
Every time.
Now, I mean, yeah, like that. There's still that gap in the women's game a little bit where some of the distance throwers would just abuse some of those short par 3s and par 4s.
So
mostly par 4s and par 5s, I would guess.
Yeah. I'm wondering if we should look at instead, Ledgestone is doing this where FPO is playing a completely different course from MPO all week.
Yeah.
Is that something that maybe we should look at instead? Is instead of adjusting pars, maybe it's adjusting the course. So Sunset Hills is going to play pretty well to the FPO field to where the winner's probably going to be under par. And, maybe that's something that's more looked at, or maybe even separating the weekends they're playing these courses so that one week the pin position can be set up for the MPO and the next week it's set up for the FPO. And
that's a thought.
Maybe the FPO, I don't think we're quite at this time, but at some point I think the FPO needs to be on a different tour. It needs to be the LDGPT and the DGPT because that would solve a lot of issues that the women are dealing with, like tee times or, the par thing or the amount of bathrooms on a course or whatever the things that, aren't geared towards women because it's you have the MPO and you have the FPO both coming to the same event right now. So you're going to gear towards the one that has more players in it. When you have 150 MPO players coming and you have 30 FPO players, the TD is obviously going to be more worried about the 150 MPO players just by number wise. You know what I mean? You take the gender out of it. You're looking at I have 180 players coming and 150 of them are in one division. I'm going to be more worried about that one division versus if we could get the FPO player field, at a tour event up to 72 plus, where you could have a sustaining tour, them on tour, and they're the only ones there. So the whole tour, the whole coverage, everything that weekend is focused on FPO. If we can get the sport to that soon, I feel like that would solve a lot of these issues because then the course could be set up for them. The coverage is set up for only them. The TD is focused on only the FPO, so he can take care of a lot of stuff that might be getting pushed, to the wayside right now because it's on his long list of things to get done. I just feel like that might be a solution.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's definitely the long term, I think, probably what everybody wants. It's just, like you said, a matter of the FPO being able to sustain its own tour.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, I mean, we throw every resource we have at the Pro Tour just to get, we're just now getting to the point where the coverage looks good. Everything seems to run kind of smooth. So I think, I mean, obviously, because the LPGA Tour is its own separate thing. I mean, they play completely different events on a completely different schedule. It's 100% different. And, maybe it starts with the FPO kind of separating off and doing maybe a smaller scale tour, because if you're not on the same schedule, if they're not saying, well, we have to go play at somewhere near Ledgestone this week, we can play anywhere, then it's very flexible once you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to have more players more good players, and just they have to have the audience
Yeah.
for it. So I think that's down the road what's going to happen. It's just not quite there
Yeah, it's
yet.
just a matter of time of when is the right time. Because
Right.
I think another thing too is obviously going to be the added cash and figuring out the payout.
Exactly.
Because if right now, I don't want to say most, but a lot of FPO players can tour with MPO players, and you can split the cost. If the tour is separated, obviously one of the things that would have to be addressed is the added cash would have to be now for two separate events instead of just into one pool, and you have to market it as two separate tours instead of one tour. So we're definitely not there yet because you'd have to make it where the FPO, you can package it to get that outside sponsorship the same as you can package it to get the outside MPO sponsorship type of a thing, to where they both can survive on tour since they're on separate tours. But I think there's got to be some things we can do right now. First off, I've said this several times. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but I've said it several times. The stream needs to be separated again. It needs to have a FPO live stream and an MPO live stream. And I say that because the whole reason of putting them together, right, was to draw more viewers to the FPO. Great motivation. I'm behind you. You're getting more eyes on FPO. But the way in which they're accomplishing that is by interrupting the back nine of MPO coverage. So what I think's going on is I don't have any problem with watching the FPO and the timing wise, but I think what's happening right now is people watching the MPO coverage that are then being interrupted on the back nine with the FPO starting are getting frustrated with FPO. They're not really getting frustrated with Pro Tour or whatever. They're saying, oh my gosh, why is FPO keep coming on? To where they're not wanting to watch that coverage. So I think it was a great motivation that is yielding a negative result, in my opinion. I almost think it would be better for FPO if they had a separate stream that wasn't getting as many viewers, but everyone watching it was wanting to watch them and was being encouraging and, was there to support, instead of watching MPO and having FPO almost forced on them during their live stream. There's some that are there that want to watch it, yes, but the comments are always going to be the people that are negative, and that's just going to be a bad look for the Pro Tour and for FPO when FPO can't really do anything about it at this point. It's all in the Pro Tour's hands.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, there's one thing if, do a separate stream and, obviously every once in a while on the MPO stream, just say, hey, make sure to check out our FPO stream going on.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think you're right in saying that they're drawing just, negative energy towards the FPO because nobody wants... When you click to watch something, you want to watch that thing, not that plus every once in a while an interruption. So, if somebody wants to watch FPO, they'll go watch the separate stream.
Yeah, and I think the timing of the streams right now is fine. Even if they wanted to flip it, because I saw some, I think Hannah Macbeth tweeted how she didn't like teeing off later in the day, which... they might need to take a poll of the FPO field or something, and the MPO field, and figure out what is the preferred thing, because last year the FPO was complaining about teeing off early and wanted to tee off when the men teed off, and then once that happens, other players are now complaining that their rounds finishing at 7. So there's got to be some type of solution. Switching courses would be that solution because they're both playing the same schedule, but if they're playing the same course, we got to figure something out with that. But have it where it's still front 9 and then whatever other cards teeing off during the back 9, but they're two separate streams. So if you're a person who wants to watch both, you just pull up two separate tabs. And you have the FPO in one, the MPO in one, and you decide when you're switching. You know what I mean? Yeah. That just, to me, I personally, when they used to have them two separate streams, that's what I did. And
yeah, it's just like channel surfing between different football games, or whatever. If you can just click back and forth, people will do that. They'll see, okay, they threw their men through their drives. I think there would be more people watching it because they could see, okay, so the MPO just threw their drives. They're walking up to it. Let's switch over. Yeah. Okay, now they just threw a shot. Let's switch back over. I think that draws more people anyways.
It might not numbers-wise, but the numbers of engaged viewers who are being supportive of the FPO would definitely go up. There's no doubt in my mind. Yeah. Now, what the logistics are for that, obviously, well, first off, hot take number 1, Jamie needs to get out of the commentary booth anyways. Secondly,
is anybody a diehard Jamie fan out
If
there.
so, I want to meet him because I haven't met him yet.
I'm really curious. I think he has blackmail on like some certain people in disc golf that he's like stayed around, because he's one of those that just doesn't make sense. Like, why does everybody feel obligated to have him do commentary? Like, I don't get it.
I don't either.
Because I don't see people commenting like, man, Jamie was on point today. Like, just killed that commentary.
Yeah, like I don't see that either.
Like, who even is that guy? Like, where did he come from?
Yeah.
I know he did Spin TV stuff, but like, it wasn't good either.
That's always been a brain teaser for me. I don't know, but regardless, you'll need one more commentator, basically is what I'm saying, because you'll need 2 on the MPO and 2 on the FPO. Whereas right now Jamie's on both, so you'll have to figure that out. But that's up to the Pro Tour. They obviously have some reason, and maybe the majority that I hear is not the majority they hear, and maybe there's a ton of people out there that just are diehard Jamie fans. I don't know. I guess I haven't met one, but
I haven't either. So,
but maybe they're out there. But regardless of that, I just think that the split stream is the way to go. I get what they were doing, but it's like Brody said in last week's podcast. If you guys haven't listened to it yet, you should go back and listen to that. But he was talking about the Pro Tour right now should be in like an experimental phase of let's try this week, let's split the stream, which I think they actually are for Ledgestone, because Paige's feature card tees off at 9 a.m. and Paul's feature card tees off at 3 p.m. So they must be splitting the stream for Ledgestone. It might just be because it's at 2 different courses. But regardless, it looks like they're doing this. But, try it for 1 week. Get some feedback.
Yeah.
You don't have to fully
disc golf
commit.
In general is in that phase.
Yeah.
Like, we should just be trying everything right now, because the sport, we're getting close to where we're going to have so many people seeing the sport that we're not there. Yeah. But right now, we are still gaining our audience. So, like, let's throw a bunch of ideas in there and just see what works and what doesn't, because stuff can be removed easily.
Exactly. We're not at a time where we have it set and there's sponsors relying on it being done this way or whatever.
That's the big thing. Yeah. That's the big thing.
We're not
the
there
Pro
yet.
Tour. Yeah, the Pro Tour needs to be marketing themselves better and gaining like tour-wide sponsors, but right now they don't. So they're not held responsible by anybody but themselves and their audience. So like, just try stuff.
Yeah, let's just, like I think Brody said last week, throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Like, let's just try 1 week. Hey, this week we're only doing live coverage this week. Let's just see. Yes, people will say they're outraged, but let's see what the numbers look like. Okay, next week, Joma's and everything back. All right, week after that, let's try holding post-produce for a week and see what's going on.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like Steve Dodge. I think Steve Dodge had the idea of what the future of disc golf will look like with his media plan, where it was like live coverage, it was all through the Pro Tour or whatever. But he just did it so fast. Like, he just was like, out of nowhere, hey, next season, this is what we're doing. No ifs, ands, or buts. We're not testing it. No nothing. You don't get a say in it. This is what we're doing, which was the wrong way to go about it. You have to phase something like that in and test it here and there, see what the audience likes, what the audience is going to respond to, and then go with those results to get you where you want to be, but do it the way that, you're going to bring everyone with you, instead of polarizing and dividing out where, Sexton's like, I'm not even playing a Pro Tour because you're not letting me do commentary. There's so many players that were like protesting the Pro Tour back then because of the media decision. That's not what you want, but no one's going to protest the Pro Tour if you're like, hey, we're just trying this for 1 week. We just want to get some numbers and see what it looks like. Who's going to be upset at that?
And if they are, they'll get over it pretty fast.
Yeah, you're going to have to. Now, I could see people getting upset because right now it's behind a paywall. So I think if you did that, you'd have to be like, yes, we're only doing live this week, but we're going to make all 4 rounds free because we want to test this out. It'd have to be something like that.
Yeah.
I think it would be a bad look if you're like, hey, next week's tournament or Green Mountain Championships that everyone wants to watch, it's only going to be behind the paywall. That's the only way you can watch it. That would not come across good. That would just, that would put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But
that would stir the pot. Yeah.
But if you went just like, Green Mountain Championships, we're going to test out only doing it live. We just want to see what type of viewerships we're at right now and stuff like that. How many people will actually watch live to gauge some numbers. That's what we're going to do for this event. And then we'll be back to regular media next week. I mean, what's the harm in that?
Yeah, I mean I think that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see if the Pro Tour has some stuff like that up their sleeves as we head into next year. But another thing that's going to be very interesting to see is, are they able to pull off live streaming from Northwoods? They struggled with it a lot at Worlds last year. I think they were kind of able to do it the last round or the last round at Northwoods, but I know the first round we were live on Instagram, the PDGA was live on their Facebook, and like that was it. You know, that was your only live coverage.
It was disastrous.
Yeah, because even this year, my phone doesn't work at Northwoods. I'm having to send iMessages as text messages, and I'm not loading my Instagram stories posted when I got back to the hotel. Like, the cell service didn't magically improve. So
you got to think that they're smart enough to have a plan, but man, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I doubt the Pro Tour. So
I was told they were out testing it this morning.
They should have been out testing it a month ago.
Yes, but I was told they were out testing it some this morning, and from what I heard, they were like 3 holes in, and they're like, "Oh, coverage is great out here," which I hope that's not all they tested, because
there's a lot more than 3 holes.
The struggle for my phone is once you get to like the back 9, like 10 hole 10 beyond, my phone just is like, no, we're not working here.
Yeah.
So it might be.
That's just not it. Testing it a few days before the event, only going in 3 holes, like
hopefully that's
things.
Not all
that's the other thing.
But that's all I heard.
Like, imagine like if we need to get to the point where the Pro Tour can sell media rights, then they're going to be held to a standard, and when that live stream is going to be everything for them.
Yeah.
Like they can't be messing around with that. It's one thing to make your fans upset, but it's another thing to make the people who just paid you a large sum of money to advertise. You can't make them upset.
No. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if like they did like, we're gonna cover. They had like a certain number of holes that they knew they always had good coverage on, and so they were gonna like cover the lead group teeing off on 1 and maybe cover them through 2 and 3, and then when they lose coverage, we're gonna jump over to whatever cards on 7, follow some of the like hotter rounds going on through that little stretch until the lead card gets there, type of a thing. So that you have a lot of golf to watch, but they can kind of work around the bad spotty stuff, and then just have a camera out there to record, so you can send it back to the studio if like an ace happens or some crazy throw in, so you can be like, oh, this just happened moments ago, Paul Macbeth threw in from 400 feet on hole whatever. It wouldn't surprise me to see that type of coverage, but I'll be on the course, but I'll probably still be pulling up Disc Golf Network to see what are we looking like here. What's going on, what's going down, what's their coverage looking like, especially for the Fpo teeing off early. I'm interested to see kind of what their game plan is there with their stream.
Mm-hmm.
So
it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Let's get into some predictions for Ledgestone as we kind of wrap out this podcast. I'll go first with the MPO. I'll give you my top 3 for MPO. I think Paul is going to be so mad about last week that I don't really think the field stands a chance. So I'm going Paul.
You would like to think so.
Yeah, I'm going Paul for the win. I will say his putter the past 2 weeks on tour has been, I don't want to say hit or miss, but to a certain degree, a little hit or miss.
So streaky.
Yeah, to where sometimes he's just feeling it, and other practice rounds he just seems to be a little bit off. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens there. But I just feel like, knowing Paul, knowing how upset he was after Idlewild, I wouldn't want to be in the field playing against him this week. So I think Paul wins. I think Emerson Keith, he was talking at Idlewild about how he was so excited to get back out here to these courses. I think he's extremely comfortable on it, especially after how he played at Worlds last year. And I think he's just ready to get back to these courses and just light them up. So I'm picking Emerson coming in second. And coming in third place, I have Chris Dickerson. I think Northwoods really plays to his strengths.
Okay.
I think he's going to, in my opinion, this tournament's won or lost at Northwoods. Eureka Temp, if you're on, and you're staying in bounds, you're not going to lose as many strokes as you could lose at Northwoods. So
right.
I'm basing these decisions on players playing at Northwoods, and I think Northwoods is a great course for Chris. And coming off of his hot finish at Idlewild, I just think he's going to be riding some momentum and hungry for chasing down a win. So I'm going with Chris rounding out my top 3.
All right. So my top 3 a bit different. I'll start with third.
Okay.
We'll make it a little more, exciting, I guess. Third place, I'm gonna go with Kevin Jones.
Okay.
I've been impressed with Kevin Jones' golf this year. He seems like more of a threat to win. In years past, I'm like, yeah, he's got talent. Every once in a while, breaks out, but like he's really hanging around this year, like in top 10s, and top 5s even. And I don't know. I feel like he's gonna kind of stay around that cusp. I don't know if he's. I mean, I'm sure he'll have a breakthrough win at some point, but I like the way I like his game because he doesn't, forehand, backhand. His putt I think can be a little off and on, but he doesn't have a ton of weaknesses.
Yeah.
Throws a mile. So I like Kevin Jones for third. Second, I'm going with Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to say this isn't out of spite, but it kind of is because I'm just sick of him losing, to be honest, and therefore I'm not gonna predict him to win again and look like an idiot.
Okay.
So
I can respect that.
I'm gonna give Paul second, and prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Sell some putters for us, huh? What else are you out there for? Wearing that foundation logo, come on. He's killing me, man. Morale at the office is at an all-time low. Yeah, I'm warning. I'm sending out a warning right now. If Paul McBeth doesn't win this event, he's coming home to something shocking. That's all I have to say. We'll leave it
I
at
kind
that.
of hope he loses because I want to see it.
We'll just say it'll be the last straw. And if I couldn't spite him any further to pick my winner, I'm going to go with Richard Wysocki.
Solid pick.
I think Ricky is playing. I'm happy that Ricky's back, and I've been saying that, and I think he's due for his breakthrough win.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of time before he puts it all together for a weekend and gets it done. So I'm going to say Ricky this week at Ledgestone, bring home the big check. What is the purse, by the way?
I actually don't know.
Go ahead and
it's normally.
let me take a look at that.
It's normally in 6 figures for Ledgestone. I almost put Ricky, Emerson, Paul, but I didn't want it to be the world's just full repeat of last year's world. So I was like, do I want to take Ricky or Emerson out? So I took.
I'm not seeing a purse on the PDGA. I guess they might not have it listed.
It might not. It's normally listed after the payout is done.
Yeah.
But it's normally 6 figures plus at this event.
Knowing the PDGA and disc golf in general, Ricky will probably win with a 6-figure purse and make like $2,000. So, I mean, what is there to say? We'll have a lot to say about that next week, I'm sure, because I'll get ticked off at the purse again. So
probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ricky's a great pick. He lit up the last 2 rounds at Worlds last year. I think he went 13 down, 11 down, or something like that.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous 2 rounds. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him up there either. But what about for FPO? Who you got your top 3 for FPO?
So FPO, Sunset Hills FPO, this could be very interesting.
Yes.
I feel like we're gonna see kind of what we've been seeing lately, in that there's a little bit more parity and diversity in who's rounding out the leaderboards for the FPO, which is great. I'm gonna take Haley King for third.
Okay.
Big fan of Haley King. I'm really rooting for her, so I want to pick her. I think she's good for the FPO and good for the sport. I think she's marketable.
Yeah.
For FPO.
For sure.
I'm gonna go ahead and take Sarah Holcomb second.
Okay.
And she's just been playing. She's just consistent, She's been playing pretty well. And then I'm gonna take Paige in first.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty impossible for me not to. I know she didn't play that well this week, but we're gonna have different golf at Ledgestone.
Yeah.
And she's still the best FPO player in my opinion, quite some.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, they're playing a wide open course or not wide open, but pretty much it. They're playing a golf course hybrid all 4 rounds.
She's gonna shred.
It's hard not to pick Paige, so I'm picking Paige as well as my winner. But coming in second, I'm picking Katrina Allen. And the reason behind that is I still think that she is the best thrower of a disc in the FPO field. I think that
Wow.
I think throwing wise, she's better than Paige, but her putt
Okay.
is not good enough for her to win. So if she can get her putt together, I think she could challenge Paige, but I just don't think that's going to happen. So I have Katrina coming in second, and then third place. I've been really liking this person's play all year, and they're really able to put rounds together, and they've been surprising me year round. So I'm going with Missy Gannon coming in third place.
Yeah. Solid pick.
I don't know how much this course plays to her strengths, but in general, she seems to be a good, well-rounded player.
She is well-rounded,
and
yeah.
so I'm not really too worried about this course not playing to her strengths. I thought about throwing like a Jennifer Allen or something in there, but we haven't seen her on tour for a while, so it's hard to predict how she's going to go.
It's been a while.
But I think Missy Gannon's it wouldn't shock me at all to see her in the top three, so I'm happy with putting her in third place. So Paige, Katrina, Missy Gannon, and then the final pick here, something we started a few weeks ago, which last week, this is the dark horse pick. The only rule behind the dark horse pick is they have to be below 980 rated because we want to highlight lower tier players playing in the open level. We don't like ratings here, and this is kind of our way to say screw you to ratings. Low rated players can tear up a course too, which so far both weeks at least one of us has picked a player that has proven that right.
Yeah, my guy last week, Trevon,
I like
Crow.
Trevon Crow.
Trevon? Okay. Well, I kind of just picked him on a whim. I typically look for local guys. I don't even think he was local, though. I just saw he'd been playing some decent golf. It's like 970 rated or so. And finished well under par, played darn well, and destroyed Hunter's pick. So
yeah, my pick, his first name was Ian. We won't talk about his last name so you don't have to look him up. He did not pull it through for me.
So what? It's 1-1 now.
1-1
for the season.
Which my boy Phil broke his foot at like the next tournament after I picked him.
Wow,
Yeah.
The Hunter curse.
I don't know.
The Hunter dark horse curse.
Possibly. I saw him at
Better
the course
keep an eye on
today.
your buddy Ian.
I saw him at the course today. He was out here walking with a boot on, and so I pulled a jawbreaker wasp that will be dropping at the Ledgestone Fly Mart. If you're here,
Ooh.
yeah, they're pretty money. I pulled one out of the back of the car and threw it to him, and he was pretty stoked about that. But my dark horse pick for this week, I did a little bit of research on him. I looked at last year's Worlds. He placed okay, but he's been playing pretty good golf all year this year. I think he's sponsored by Prodigy on their street team possibly, or maybe actually on their real team. But Zach Kemmer is who I'm going with. I think he's in the 970s rated, but I don't know. I have a good feeling. I like my pick. So I'm going with Zach.
All right.
We'll see kind of how he does. Make sure you star him in UDisc so you can kind of keep up with mine and Trevor's dark horse picks. But Zach Kemmer, Z-A-K.
All right. I'm so my pick, going with a guy out of North Adams, Michigan, Jared Stoll.
Oh, okay.
PGA number 68103.
Yeah. I've heard him before.
Been around for a while. He's played a lot of golf this year, and as of recently, had some pretty good results. He just played a Ledgestone Flex event.
I should have looked into
so,
those.
Yeah.
I should have made my pick from that. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. He didn't dominate it or anything, but he's seen the course.
He seemed comfortable. Yeah.
So, kind of a mid-rated guy, but I kind of just go with my gut with these picks, and it's worked, twice.
Yeah.
So
Our first week was very close. We both of our players the first week tore it up.
Both guys played well.
So the first week we kind of both won, but my guy just happened to out your guy a little bit. So we'll see who breaks the tie going into the third week here, and I'm gonna let you take on this Foundation News segment. What kind of new stuff do we have dropping on the site right now since you've been kind of holding down home fort?
Yeah, so a lot of exciting things starting to roll in. We just had kind of a silent restock. I think if you were a Patreon, you kind of got a little heads up on that. We still have a lot of that left from the restock. We didn't, hasn't been cleared off our shelves. Mostly Lunas. If you're in the market for a stock stamp Luna, we have a lot of cool ones right now. A lot of cool blue colors, green, grays, all that.
I saw some Storm Cloud, which I don't know what that color technically is.
Some Storm Cloud. Hey, it's like a purplish gray if you guys are interested in that.
Okay.
But a lot of cool foils too. So Lunas are in right now. We have a few other molds in there that We're a little more limited. Still have some Zeus's in stock. But some of the bigger news is apparel. So by the time you all are listening to this, there should be a few new apparel items online. If you missed it, we did get towels and water bottles kind of recently. The towels have been popular so far. They're super sweet.
Yeah, we'll probably have to place a reorder
turned
soon
out
for those.
Yeah, they turned out great. People seem to have liked them and been ordering them. But we do have a lot more shirts coming in. So we have all new designs, if I'm correct, right, Hunter?
Well,
These
yeah,
are all
we
new
restocked
designs.
the one line. I think that's the only
Except for the
old-
one line. So the one line dry fit, which ended up being really popular, we're restocking. We actually we have all the colors we did before, and then we added in gray as a new color. So those are back. We have plenty of those for y'all to order again. And then we have a few new designs, kind of tailored more towards our lifestyle brand. We have some Supreme Flight, and then we're getting a bunch of new stuff in with Paul and Brody's individual logos that are pretty sweet. I think you guys are like. So make sure to keep an eye on the apparel. It's going to keep rolling in. We had a lot ordered, so just kind of keep an eye on our apparel and all of our social media because we'll be announcing it. And make sure to check that out because the apparel game over at Foundation is starting to pick up, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked to get home and grab a few of those shirts myself because
And stay tuned. Well, we've mentioned this before, but in the near future,
I think next
there
week
is a very next week.
think it's
Hopefully,
next week.
hopefully, if UPS can find our store, there is a very they almost ran me over the other day, but I secured that restock for y'all. Just remember this. There is a very special drop, and we're gonna need everybody hyping it up. It's gonna be great. You guys are gonna have a lot of fun with it, I think. So
we're
make sure
pretty
to keep an eye out
excited for it. And the final bit of news is Trevor and I have officially signed up for our first tournament of 2020.
We sure have.
And I don't know, it's going to be a lot more public than any tournament I've ever played in before as far as people having their eyes on whatever the heck I'm about to put up. But the first tournament I'm going to play by myself because Trevor didn't get into it before.
Well, I'm on the wait list.
Oh, you're on the wait list.
I'm on the wait list, but I'm like 9 deep.
So
if anybody knows the TD
I know
for
the
whatever
TD.
that event is, anybody other than Hunter that can't be held liable knows the TD, go ahead and slip him a few bucks. I didn't say that, but
it's definitely not on record on a
But-
podcast. But
make something happen. See if my name just slides its way up into that event. That one's like at the end of August, though. I have no business playing in that.
yeah, that's
let's
in
be honest.
17 days, and I haven't started
But-
practice putting yet.
Yeah, you're toast. But
I'm screwed.
the real news is October 24th and 25th is All Heiser's Eve. It's at a course called Greenfield in
And
Virginia,
Mayflower. It's 2 courses.
and Mayflower. 2 monster courses. Great courses. Some of the best ones in this area. And it's my MPO debut.
There we go.
Going in 935 rated. Very much under the radar. But I'm curious to know if I haven't played competitively in so long that I'm curious to know if I can adopt a mindset that I don't really care that much anymore. So surely I can't be sweating over a 10-footer, but knowing myself, I'm going to try
in that
really.
tournament, you're sweating over a 10-footer.
Yeah, no, as soon as I get in the car on the way there, start blasting music, trying to get myself psyched like I'm about to play in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. I'm too much of into sports that I know I'm gonna pump myself up like I'm about to fight Conor McGregor for the belt. When really I'm trying to keep my little 250-foot Heisers out of the trees against whatever Virginia locals show up. It's gonna be exciting though.
It's gonna be fun.
We'll definitely try to get some kind of media surrounding it. Try to film it for your entertainment.
If nothing
And,
else, hopefully there's
if
live
I
scoring.
if I can't shoot my rating at this point, I might resign from the sport of disc golf. So
I wish I
heard
could
that
say
here
same,
first.
but I'm not confident that I'm shooting 960 golf the first tournament I go out there. I'm not confident in that at all, actually.
we'll find out.
Well, we're about to find out. All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, sorry for probably the bad quality on both ends a little bit. Well, hopefully it kind of all work together. But next week we'll be back in the studio and everything will be back to normal. But hopefully you enjoyed this podcast from the road and got some good insights into kind of what's going on and stuff like that. Make sure to check us out on all of our social media. And if you want more short little bites from previous episodes, check out our Grip Locked podcast YouTube channel, which has a bunch of clips from pretty much every episode we record if you want to consume the podcast that way. But I think that's about it, and we will talk to you guys next week.